Hamilton to Ferrari was the culmination of a decade-and-a-half-long love affair waiting to happen. As shocking as the timing of it was, given he had recently signed a contract extension with Mercedes, it's something that was rumored every time the silly season opened up, with communication between the two parties in years prior being the worst-kept secret in the paddock. However, as inevitable as it felt, and as amazing as the partnership has the potential to be, could this actually be the start of an absolute disaster? Last season was an up-and-down affair for the seven-time world champion, and according to reports, Hamilton could be due yet another shock departure if he doesn't match the Scuderia's very high expectations. Want to know why Hamilton will have to hit the ground running? Contracts are made to be broken, and surely the 2026 regulations will be piling on the pressure. And stick around, because there's a man on the horizon who could certainly make Hamilton's life all the more difficult. Let's get one thing straight off the bat, in race trim, Lewis Hamilton is still world class. However, it's not necessarily the races which will cause him issues, as highlighted by Nico Rosberg, who gave the opinion that if Hamilton does not fix up quickly, then he may well be in serious trouble in 2025, with this year potentially seeing his confidence being rocked by his poor qualifying form against his teammate. The problem with our sport is that if you don't qualify high up, you really struggle, even though he still seems to be at his very best in race pace. We've seen over and over again, his racing pace is just still insanely strong, but when you qualify poorly all the time almost, and he says himself he's just not quick enough in qualifying, then that's something that was weighing on the shoulders so much during the end of the year. And now Hamilton is going to a team where pace matters over everything else. You just need to look at their home race in Monza to see that speed is king, and not only that, his new teammate Charles Leclerc is absolutely electric over one lap. Now, while I certainly think that Leclerc has his misgivings, namely lacking the killer instinct to fight for a championship rather than just poles and race wins, he certainly delivers in the ways that mean the most to Ferrari. Rosberg continued by giving an ominous premonition about Hamilton's next adventure, with him claiming that the road ahead may well be painful for the seven-time world champion. Now, he has 2 years at Ferrari, and he will 100% be very worried. What if this form of mine continues? Like, was it just the car at Mercedes, or was it something else? And what if this form of mine continues to Ferrari? If it does, it would really be quite a painful adventure, I would say, because that's not what Ferrari hired him for. Ferrari hired him to be on a level with Leclerc and fight for world championships, so I think he will be very worried about that, and we can only hope that he finds back his good old self with a reset at Ferrari and is once again the brilliant driver we know. And the key thing that Rosberg absolutely nails is the fact that Ferrari expectations are unlike any other. Like any other team with such a passionate fan base and deep history, the pressure and weight is unlike any other, with it being more intense than their respective rivals. The fact that Hamilton is starting from a compromised position, where the positivity about his entry to the team is being outweighed by scrutiny and trepidation before he's even had his seat fitted, is something that will only intensify the pressure that he will experience from the get-go. Someone who knows the expectations of the Scuderia all too well, having seen his brother experience it at the peak of its intensity, is Ralf Schumacher, who gave his thoughts about how much of an uphill battle is ahead of Lewis Hamilton during his stay at Ferrari. The expectations are high, as are the emotions. People won't be patient for more than 6 months if things don't go well. He is not used to the pressure from the outside. The clocks tick a little differently in Italy. Even in Michael's time, they wanted to sack Jean Todt when success took too long. Michael prevented that, and it came to a happy end after all. Unfortunately, I doubt that with Lewis. But maybe he'll be lucky enough for the car to suit him, then everything could turn out very well, but I have my doubts. And that's the worry. If the car is at odds with Hamilton's driving style, as let's face it, they aren't exactly going to screw over Charles Leclerc here, then Hamilton will be under immediate pressure from pre-season testing. A new race engineer, a new team, and new workflow will mean any of the comforts that Hamilton has been able to rely on in previous years will no longer be there to fall back on, and the effect of any malperformance or failure to meet expectations will be felt immediately. Possibly the most pressing issue for Hamilton and the path ahead is the fact that he isn't walking it alone, as there is a driver following close behind him waiting to pounce on his seat at the earliest opportunity. 2025 sees the full-time introduction of Saudi Arabia's super sub Oliver Bearman, who will be taking his place in the Haas team alongside the experienced driver and race winner Esteban Ocon. Having placed Carlos Sainz's Ferrari in 7th with only 24 hours notice that he'd be driving in the race, Bearman immediately made his presence known, and a later point-scoring finish for at the time underperforming Haas in Baku secured his position on the grid for next season. Being the only other Ferrari junior driver on the grid alongside Charles Leclerc, he is certainly going to be watched closely by the team and its fans alike, as if there are any signs that he could be doing a good job in red himself, while Hamilton may be struggling to get to grips with the team and its culture, then Bearman's mere existence in the sport could pile on and intensify the pressure even further on the 39-year-old British driver. Having been promoted alongside fellow Prema graduate Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Bearman has been placed in arguably the best position for a junior driver to prove themselves. A team on the up, with an experienced teammate to compare to, and an environment where he doesn't need to immediately perform. Antonelli has the pressure of a title-challenging team on his shoulders, while Bortoleto is probably going to be driving at the back of the field for the next season. Much like Charles Leclerc in his early stint in Sauber, Bearman is in a team with the potential of points finishes and being first in line to cause major upsets in qualifying in the races. And you just know, the moment he finishes ahead of Hamilton in a qualifying session, questions are going to be asked. If you cast your mind back to this time last year, you'll recall that Mercedes were in a pretty rough spot. Coming off the back of a season where Red Bull dominated, Mercedes seemed to finally be getting their ship in order following a surprisingly poor couple of years, following the reintroduction of the ground effect cars in 2022. While having Lewis Hamilton third in the drivers and finishing second in the constructors, the Brackley team were massively disappointed by not being able to challenge the Red Bulls ahead, with their standings in the championships coming more from messing up the least during the season out of the other 9 teams, rather than the exceptional displays of pace. Even still, Hamilton signs a new contract and doubles down in his commitment to Mercedes, and one overwhelming sentiment remains at the time. Mercedes' problems were nothing to do with Hamilton, a 7-time world champion who was very vocally disapproving of the team's direction and was sure if he had the car, he would be able to deliver wins again. The problem was the team, the engineering department, and the buck stopped with the higher-ups. Now, however, following a season where Lewis was beaten by a Mercedes teammate in the championship for only the 2nd time ever, it seems that there is a hell of a lot less confidence about the now Ferrari-bound Lewis Hamilton's capabilities. His execution isn't in question, his intelligence isn't either, but if you ask Lewis himself, as Rosberg said earlier, it would appear that his pace may well be leaving him with age. And what's worse, if it isn't losing pace with age, as seen with fellow veteran Fernando Alonso, who could still tango with the best of them up at the front of the field if given the opportunity, then if Lewis is being honest in his doubts, then it may well show a sign of mental fragility, which will see him consumed by the ravenous and quick to punish Ferrari and their equally impassioned Tifosi. But what do you think? Will Hamilton find himself and rediscover his form at Ferrari? Have we been thrown for a loop by his tumultuous final season for Mercedes? Or is this the beginning of the end for the statistically greatest driver of all time in Formula 1? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.